we will have three things, guys. In every application, we will have three things. What are the three things that we have in every application? Front end will be available, back end will be available, and database will be available. Front end will nothing but user interface. If anybody want to use our website, then they will use the website by using user interface. Whenever you access any website, whatever you see in the browser, that is called as front end of the application. In the front end, some menu items will be available, buttons will be available. Then using that front end, you will perform operations. You will enter the details in the login form. You will click on submit. Okay. When you perform some operations on the front end, then front end will send the request to the back end. In the back end, business logic will be available to execute the request. Once business logic got executed in the back end, then it will communicate with the database to perform the operations. Database, nothing but a persistent store. For every application, database will be available, which is used to store the data permanently. Users data, the people who are using our application, that the users data will be stored permanently by using this database. Okay, now here, set up the database. Here, if you set up the database in your own, on your own, if you set up the database, there are challenges in setting up the database. Challenges with a DB setup or with a database setup. Challenges with a database setup. First, we need to set up machines. Set up machine to install DB server, database server. Set up a machine to install database server. Then purchase database server license. Set up a machine to install the database server. Purchase database server license. Install database server. Install database server in our machine. Okay. Now set up network for our machine. Set up power for our machine. Set up power for our machine. Set up security. Set up air conditioner for machine. Set up a server room. Set up a server room to keep our machines. Set up air conditioner for set up AC for room. Set up security for our room. Okay. Maintain, set up DB backups. Set up DB backups. All these things. For every project one, database is required. For every project one, database is required. So here we need to purchase the database license. Purchase the database server license. Once you purchase the database server license, then you need to install the database in one computer. You are going to purchase a database license from the Oracle company. Then you have to install the database in a computer. For that, we need to set up one computer. Then we need to purchase the database server license. We need to install database server in our machine. We need to set up the network for our machine. We need to set up the power for our machine. Set up a server room to keep our machines. Set up AC room for maintaining servers for cool temperature. Set up security for our room. Set up DB backups. Set up database backups. All these things we have to take care if we are managing the database on our own. Challenges with the database setup on our own. If you are going to set up a database for your project, then you should be ready to take all these challenges. If we go for AWS, if we use AWS cloud, then AWS will take care of all the above works. AWS will take care of all the above works. If you want to use the database for your project, then generally we need to do all these things. Sir, why I need to take all these things? It is going to take a lot of time. I want a database. I will pay the money for you. Now, if you go for the AWS will manage all these things for you. AWS will manage all these things for you. You just need to pay the money. If we use AWS cloud, then AWS will take care of all the above works which are required to set up database for application. To set up database for application. In AWS we have RDS service to create and set up database required for our application. To create and set up database required for our applications. For every application, database is mandatory because we need to store the data permanently. Whatever the application data is getting generated, the customers are there or some products are available, all the data related to the project should be stored permanently. In order to store the data permanently, we are going to use database. Right? Now, sir, how to use the database for our project? If you want to set up the database on your own, then you need to take care of all these things. It is a burden for you. It is hectic for us. We need to manage all these things on our own. If you don't want to manage all these things, then you can go for simply AWS cloud. If we use AWS cloud, then AWS will take care of all the above works which are required to set up a database for our application. You just pay the money and use the database given by the AWS. So which service is providing the database for us in the AWS? In AWS, we have RDS service to create and set up database required for our application. You just pay the money and use the, we just need to pay the money. We just need to pay the money and use database using AWS RDS service. Setup, maintenance, everything will be taken care by AWS only. Database setup, DB setup and maintenance will be taken care by AWS people. Will be taken care by AWS people. Are you guys able to understand what is the purpose of RDS? Guys, are you able to understand what is the purpose of RDS service in the AWS? Why we need to use RDS service in the AWS? Why we need to use RDS service in the AWS? We are here to set up one application infrastructure. For every application, three things will be available. Front end will be available, back end will be available, database will be available. Database is nothing but persistent store, which is used to store the application data. How to set up the database? We need to do all these things manually. Then we can set up the database required for the application. It is difficult for us to do all these things for every project. That's why we are going to use one service given by AWS, which is called RDS. RDS stands for Relational Database System. By using this RDS, we can set up the database required for our project. Now, what about the database license, database maintenance, everything? AWS is going to take care. Nowadays in the market, we have two types of databases. One is SQL database, another one is NoSQL database. AWS will support for both SQL and NoSQL databases. Guys, currently today we are going to work with a SQL database. So in the tomorrow session, we will talk about how to work with NoSQL database. I will tell you how to work with the SQL database as well as how to work with NoSQL databases. Very good. Now let's go to AWS Cloud. Let's log in into AWS Management Console. We already have the free tier accounts. Let's log in into AWS Cloud. Now, once you log in into this AWS Cloud, you can go to RDS service available in the AWS. RDS account available, RDS service available in the AWS Cloud. RDS stands for relational database management system, relational database system, manage relational database service, relational database service. I have written relational database system. Sorry, it is relational database service. Relational database service. Click on RDS. Click on RDS. Right. I'm going to RDS database, RDS relational service now. Guys, here we have a dashboard. Amazon RDS is available. Amazon RDS available. Here you can create the databases. Now see here, Amazon RDS managed relational database service. Easily set up, operate and scale a relational database in the cloud. Using RDS, we can easily set up, manage and scale a database in the cloud. That is what AWS is telling. Using RDS, we can easily we can easily set up, operate and scale a relational database in the cloud. For that purpose, we are going for RDS service in the AWS, relational database service. RDS stands for relational database service. Good. Now, here, create a database. I'm going to create a database here, guys. So here, if you go to RDS, relational database service, it will ask you to create one database in the cloud. It will ask you to create one database in the cloud. I'm going to RDS service. Currently, do we have any databases available? No. Here we have Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora database is available. There are several databases which are supported by AWS. Go to databases. Currently, there are no databases available. Create a database. So you are coming to create database section. Here, choose a database creation method. Standard create, easy create. We have two options. Do you want to go for standard create option or you want to go for easy create option? I'm selecting easy create option. Now you see what is the database engine you want. Do you want Amazon Aurora database? You want MySQL database or you want MariaDB or SQL Server or Oracle or PostgreSQL? These all are SQL databases, guys. Structured query language databases to store the data. I'm going for MySQL database here. Here, what is the DB instance size you want? What is the DB instance size? Do you want the database for your real application for the production? Or you want it to use it for only dev or testing purpose? Or you want to use free tier database? I want to go for free tier database. Guys, observe. Choose the database creation method. I will tell you, go to RDS service, procedure to create the MySQL database. Steps to create MySQL DB using AWS RDS. Okay, go login into AWS Management Console. Login into AWS Management Console. Go to RDS service. Go to RDS service. Click on create database. Click on create database. Now, database creation method. I'm choosing easiest method here. Choose database creation method. I'm giving the method name as easy create. Easy create. Configuration engine type. I'm selecting the engine type as a MySQL. Engine type I'm going to select as MySQL. Next one, DB instance size I'm selecting as a free tier. Guys, I'm giving you these steps so that you don't need to pay the money. Free tier. DB instance size we are going to take as a free tier. DB instance identifier. Type a name for your DB instance. The name must be unique across all the DB instances owned by your AWS account in the current AWS region. It is asking type some name for the database. So it is database identifier name. I'm keeping it as a database one only. Choose the username for your database. Database should have a username. Currently the username is admin. If you want to generate the password, click on this option, auto generate password, or you can type your own password for the database. I'm selecting a password for the database. Okay. Confirm the password. Whatever the password you have entered there, you need to confirm that password. By default username, here we have identifier name is database one, username is admin, choose the password, confirm the password. Default username, identifier, I'm not changing anything, which is available as database one, username, which is available as admin, password. Choose a password for you. Choose a password. Okay. View the default settings. Here there are so many settings are available to create the database, guys. There are so many settings are available in order to create the database. This is a easy create option. This is the easy create option. Now, let me check it. Encryption enabled, VPC, subnet group, automatic backups, VPC security group, physically accessible, publicly accessible, yes. Database port number 3306, database identifier, database -1, DB engine version, parameter group, insights, monitoring is enabled, maintenance is auto monitor version, delete protection not enabled. You are responsible for ensuring that you have all the necessary rights for any third-party products or services that you use with the AWS resources. Now, if you click this button, create database option will come. If you go for standard create, some options are going to change. Version of the MySQL, free tier we are using. Now, database name, credentials you can use. Database instance configuration. What is the storage class? Availability and duration. Connectivity, public access we are keeping as yes. Existing VPC, default VPC group, database authentication, password authentication, additional configuration, database name, database parameter, like this. Retention policy and encryption for the database, monitoring for the database, logging for the database, maintenance window, delete protection, estimate the monthly cost for the database. All these things you can choose if you go for standard create. So what are the configurations you want to do for your database? You can do that configuration when you go for standard create option. If you use easy create option, by default one database will be created. Default settings it is going to use. You see, view the default settings which are coming here. Use the default settings which are coming here. If you want to change any of these settings now, use standard create. If you want to change any of the default settings, then you need to go for standard create option. Guys, now tell me which option you want me to use. Do you want me to create by using standard create option or easy create option? Easy create option, huh? Standard create option, huh? Okay, let's go with the standard create then. Let's go with the standard create then. Create a database methodology, that is standard create. Okay, choose a database creation method as a standard create. Engine type MySQL, instance MySQL, version is there, template free tier. Template I'm using as free tier. Guys, observe carefully. Database creation method I'm using standard create. Engine option I'm selecting as MySQL. Template I'm using as a free tier. Settings, database identifier, database one is available. DB instance identifier. DB instance identifier is the database one. I'm not changing anything. Credential settings, username is admin. Password I'm selecting. Password I'm typing. I'm confirming my password. Then after, instance configuration, storage SSD storage, allocation storage 20, storage auto scaling, availability and durability, connectivity with the VPC, default VPC we are going to use, default VPC for security, default subnet group, public access select as yes. public access, keep it as yes, so that we can access the database. Okay, guys, VPC nothing but private virtual cloud. That is a big topic in the AWS. We are going to understand what is the VPC in the coming classes. VPC is a very big topic in the AWS. Okay, now VPC security group, choose the existing VPC, don't select anything. Default VPC I'm using. Availability zone, nothing is there. Additional configuration, that port number 3306. Database authentication, password. Automated additional configuration, initial database name. You can give one name for the database, guys. I'm giving the database name as IHIS. It can be anything. You can give anything as your database name. I'm giving my database name as Health Insurance System Database. Some name I am giving for the database. Under configure initial database name. Configure initial database name. You can take any name for that. Initial database name I'm taking as IHIS is the database name. This is the name of the database which it is going to create. Okay. IHIS is the initial database name I'm taking. All right. Remaining things I'm not changing anything, guys. I'm going with the remaining things as it is. See here. What are the things I have changed? Creation method standard create. Engine type MySQL. Template free tier. Database 1 is the default identifier, not changing anything. Credential settings admin. If you want the instance identifier name, you can change it also. Instance identifier name, I'm keeping it as IHIS. That is nothing but my name of the database, IHIS. Credential admin is the username. Password, I have selected something, I have typed it. The remaining things, nothing changing. Public access I made as yes. I have given that public access is yes. Come down. In the additional configuration, I have configured initial database name. Initial database name I have given as IHIS. Whatever the values I have changed, those values I have given, you can use the same options like this. Once it is done, automated backup, database backups will happen automatically for every 7 days. Encryption will be there. Monitoring will be available. And IAM role, maintenance, delete protection, enable delete protection. That means if you select this, database cannot be deleted. If you select this option, database cannot be deleted by mistake also. Okay, fine. Monthly cost, it is telling you what is the cost of that. Click on create database. Now, my database is creating, my database identifier is the IHIS. IHIS is the name of the database. Okay, view credential details. Guys, this is my username. This is my password. Whenever you create the database, you need to store the database credentials. Database creation will take some time. Your database might take few minutes to launch. It is taking some time to create my database. So for this database, we can take the credentials. You can copy. Username of the database is admin. Password of the database is this. You can copy this password. Okay, let's wait. It is going to take some time to create that database. Status is creating. This status should be completed. Running status should come to running state. Then only we can use this database. Let's wait. Database is getting created now. MySQL database is creating in the AWS cloud. Guys, tell me which service we are using to create this database. What is the service we are using in the AWS to create the database? RDS we are using to create the database. Okay. See the options we have selected. What are the steps we are followed? Once all these things are done, finally click on create database. Click on create database. It will take few minutes of time. It will take few minutes of time to create. Note down username and password of the database. Once the database is created, it will provide database endpoint URL to access. This database is created in the cloud, right? How can I access this database in my application? How can I use this database in my Java project? How can I use this data? How can I communicate with this database by using my Java program? How can I communicate with the database by using .NET program? How can I communicate with this database by using Python program? Okay, right. So here, in order to connect to this database will give you one endpoint URL. This database will give you endpoint URL. By default, admin is coming as the username. Password I have given something. So I need to note down that username and password to connect to the database. Okay. So once the database creation got completed, then it will generate one endpoint URL for the database. We need to take that database endpoint URL and we have the username and password. By using this endpoint URL, username and password, we can communicate with the database. Okay. Let's wait. See these steps, guys. How to create a database by using AWS RDS. How to create a database using AWS RDS. I have taken the username as admin. I have given the password. In order to connect with the database, I need to note down the username and password of the database. Still, database is backing up, status is backing up. That means it is under creation. It is getting created. It will take some more time to create. Your database might take a few minutes to launch. You view credential details. You can take the credentials of the database. You need to copy. This is only one time you will be able to view this password. Copy and save the password for your reference. Otherwise, you will need to modify the database to change it. Guys, you need to save your password securely. Okay. This is the only one time you can copy. Once this database got created, you can't access the password again. You can give any name for the database name. I have given the database name as IHIS. This is my project name, guys. In my company, this is my project name. So I have given the database name as IHIS. You can give any name as database. Suppose if your project is IRCTC project, you can give the name as IRCTC. If your project is HDFC Bank project, you can configure HDFC Bank as your database. You can give anything. My project name is IHIS, so I have given IHS name. You can give ABC also, no problem. You can give ABC also, no problem. Got it? IHIS is just a name for the database. You can give any name for your database. Generally, people will give the project name as a database name. These are the steps we need to follow in order to create the database in the AWS cloud. Once your database is created, you need to note down the username and password of the database, and you need to note down the endpoint URL of the database. In order to access the database, we need that endpoint URL. Still, it is under creation. Guys, still the database is getting created. Go to this database, click on this database. Under connectivity, can you see endpoint URL generated for my database? Can you see endpoint URL generated for my database? Can I say that this is the endpoint URL of my database? Yes, this is the endpoint which is used for connectivity purpose. If I want to connect with the database, I need to know the username, password, and endpoint of my database. If I want to connect with the database, I need to note down endpoint, username, and password. Do we know username? Admin is the username, and this is my password. And I know endpoint of the database, address of the database. That is the endpoint. Database is running on which port number, guys? What is the port number for MySQL database? What is the port number of MySQL database? 3306. What is the port number? 3306. Go to security group. If I want to connect with this database, do we need to allow that port number in the security group or not? My IP address should be allowed to access the security group or not? Go to edit inbound rules. Edit inbound rules. Port range we got as 0265535. That's fine. You need to make sure the port range is enabled. The port range is enabled for all TCP 0265535. 0265535 means all the port numbers it is going to allow. It is taken a default security group which is allowing. For example, if you are not able to connect, then you check the security group. That security group should have the port range as 0265535. For me, it has taken the default security group. The default security group is having inbound rule with all TCP with the port range as 0265535. That means all the IP addresses it is going to allow. You can connect to my database from any system. You can connect to my database using any system. Got it? Yeah. Successfully created the database IHIS. Successfully created the database called IHIS. Now, can you see the status of the database now? What is the status of my database? What is the status of my database? Available. Now, can we see the password of my database? Can we see the password of my database now? You can't see. So first time only when the database got created, you need to save that username and password. Now you cannot see the password of my database. I remember what is my password. Okay. Go to this database. Now can you see what is the endpoint of my database and what is the port number of my database? This is the endpoint of my database and this is the port number. For MySQL database, by default port number is 3306. Fine guys, with this our database got created. MySQL DB endpoint. This is the endpoint of my database. Let me copy this endpoint. This is the endpoint URL to connect with this database. You need to copy this endpoint. And username for the database is admin. Password for this database is this is my password. And port is for MySQL 3306. It is the default port. It is default port for MySQL DB. These are MySQL DB properties. MySQL database properties. Okay. Database name is the what? What is the name of the database? Database name is what? What is the name I have given? IHIS is the name I have given. So tomorrow, whenever you create a database, as a AWS engineer, whenever you create a database in the AWS, you need to share these database properties to development team. Then they will use these database properties in the Java application or in the .NET application to communicate with the database. You see, you created the database in the cloud. Now, this Java program or .NET program or Python program want to communicate with your database. If the program wants to communicate with the database, programmers should know database properties, endpoint of the database, username of the database, password of the database, port number of the database, and the name of the database. If you give these properties to the development team, then development team will configure the database properties in the project. Then the project can connect with the database. So you need to remember the properties of your database and you need to provide the database properties to the development team. Do you understand my point? Are you able to understand my point, guys? Fine. So with this, can I say that database got created? I logged in into my AWS account. I navigated to RDS service. I clicked on the create database. I have selected these options. Database creation method standard create. Engine is MySQL. Template is free type. Identifier, you can give any name. I have given IHIS. Note, you can give any name. You can give anything. You can give anything. Username is admin. Password, choose a password. Public access is yes. Initial database name IHIS. You can give anything. Note, you can give anything. Once you have selected these options, click on the create database. It will take few minutes to create. Note down username and password of the database. Once the database created, it will provide the database endpoint URL to access. We need to provide above the DB. We need to provide DB properties to project team members, to the project team. What are the properties? Endpoint, username, password, port number, database name. These properties we need to provide to project team. Basically, you will give to the developers. Developers will use these properties in the program to communicate with the database. Okay, MySQL database is created. Can we test this database is really working? Can we test that? Is this database is really working? Come on, guys. Can we test it? Can we test it? In order to test this database, guys, I'm going to install one software called MySQL Workbench. There is a software called MySQL Workbench software is available. By using this MySQL Workbench, we can test whether this database is really working as expected or not. Okay. Go to MySQL Workbench, download that. Download MySQL Workbench software. Google, download MySQL Workbench for Windows. Download Workbench. Guys, what is this Workbench? Workbench is a client software. Workbench is a client software which is used to connect with the database server. Database is already created in the cloud. Now, whether the database is working properly or not, I want to test it. For that, I'm going to download MySQL Workbench. Windows MSI installer, click on the download. I'm downloading this MySQL Workbench. No thanks, just to start my download. Just to start my download. Now you see, MySQL Workbench file got downloaded. Open this file. Okay. Click on next. Finish. Is that installed? Go to downloads. MySQL Workbench. Download the prerequisites. What are the prerequisites are required to download the Workbench? I'm going to download those prerequisites. Click on finish. Click on finish. Let's go to downloads page. MySQL Workbench. Click the download button on the next page. Yeah, download the prerequisites. What's happening with this? Something is wrong. MySQL Workbench. Go to download section. Workbench. MySQL Workbench is just a client software which is used to connect with the MySQL database. product version, select this, click on install. MySQL Workbench requires a Visual C++ 2019 redistribution package to be installed. Next, to open containing the further information, click on this. Download prerequisites. I'm installing community version. This is community version only. Yes, it is checking for some other software to install. Download the prerequisites. What are the prerequisites it requires? Guys, can you try that? Are you guys able to download and install in your laptop? Can you try with this URL? Maybe I think I'm having some issue. Can you click on that URL, download and install? Is it getting installed? You check that. Are you able to install? And why I'm facing the issue? Microsoft Windows, okay. Windows MySQL installer, Windows MSI installer, other downloads, community edition. Click on download. No thanks, just start my download. Maybe some compatibility issue I'm getting. Requires Visual C++ 2019. Click on finish. I'm using Windows 11. Maybe because of that it is not working. Let me try that. MySQL Workbench for Windows 11. Install Workbench for Windows 11. Same page. Windows 32-bit and 64-bit operating system. Okay, first we need to download Visual Studio. To do this, you can easily download and install Visual Studio redistribution package from the official Microsoft technical documentation. First, let me download that Visual Studio package 2019, that Windows 64-bit operating system. Let me install this first. Agree. Click on install. Okay. First, I'm installing Visual Studio for this. Yeah, I will give you the link to do this. Let me try this. If it is working, then we are good to go. MySQL Workbench software I am using to test my database. Whatever the database I have created in the AWS cloud, am I able to connect to the database? I want to test it. For that purpose, I want to install MySQL Workbench. But to install the MySQL Workbench, it is asking Visual Studio. So I have installed Visual Studio first. You must restart your computer before you can use the software. Huh? Oh, if I restart, I will disconnect from the session. Okay, let's try this now. Click on next, click on next, click on next, click on install. Now, can you see, are we able to install the workbench now? Are we able to install the workbench now? SQL developer is used for Oracle database. I'm using MySQL database here. Okay. My workbench is getting installed. So download and install MySQL workbench. So as I'm using Windows 11 operating system, it is asking me to download. So steps to test MySQL DB setup. Okay, download and install Visual Studio Code. If it is not available, download and install Visual Studio using below link. You download and install this Visual Studio. It is asking Visual Studio to download MySQL workbench. Once it is done, download and install MySQL workbench. Download and install MySQL workbench. What is the page to download the MySQL workbench? Yes, here they might have given the option to download and install MySQL workbench. Go here, MySQL Heatwave downloads MySQL workbench. Where is that? Type here, download MySQL workbench for Windows. I will tell you how to work with Linux also. First, we'll set up this in the Windows. Now, download and install MySQL workbench from below link. So from this link, we can download, install MySQL workbench using below link. Okay. So first you need to download Visual Studio Code. From this URL, you can download the Visual Studio Code, install that, then download the MySQL workbench by using this link and install that Visual Studio Code. Now you see MySQL workbench completed. Launch MySQL workbench now. Click on finish. It is going to launch our MySQL workbench. Can you see MySQL workbench started? Come on, guys. MySQL workbench is available. What is this MySQL workbench? Is it a database or it is a database client? MySQL workbench is a database or it is just a database client? It is just a database client. Where is the database available? Where is the database available? Now, here in the AWS, we have already created the database. Okay. So this is my AWS cloud. This is my AWS cloud. In this AWS cloud, if you want to create any SQL database, which is service we are using? Which is service we are using? RDS service we are using. In this RDS service, which database we have created? MySQL DB we have created. MySQL database we have created. Now, here I am using MySQL workbench. What is this MySQL workbench? What is this MySQL workbench? It is just a client. It is just a client software to test the database setup. The database is created successfully or not. We can test it by using this MySQL workbench. Now, MySQL workbench is just one GUI tool which is used to communicate with the database. Once the testing is completed, then we can write our Java program. Our Java application also can communicate with this MySQL database. Java application we are going to develop, that Java application also can connect with this MySQL database. Okay. Application is also going to connect with the database. What is this workbench? Workbench is just a GUI client. Workbench is just a GUI client which is used to test database setup. Whatever the database we have created, is the database is working as expected or not. I want to test my database setup. Fine. By using this GUI client, I'm going to test the database. I can create the tables. I can insert the data. I can perform the operations in the database. Then what is this Java application? Once your database setup is ready, if the database is working as expected, then I can use the database properties in my Java application. Then my Java application can interact with this database. Got it? Now, first let us test the database setup. Guys, welcome to MySQL Workbench. MySQL Workbench is official GUI tool for MySQL. It allows you to design, create, and browse your database schemas. Work with database objects and insert the data, as well as design, run the queries to work with stored data. You can also migrate schemas and data from other database vendors to your MySQL database by using this Workbench. Workbench is a client which is used to communicate with the database, to create the tables, insert the data. All the database operations can be done by using this MySQL Workbench. It is a client software, GUI client software. It is not the database software, guys. It is just a database client software. MySQL is the database. MySQL database already created in the AWS cloud. In order to communicate with the database available in the AWS cloud, we are using MySQL Workbench. For this database, we have a endpoint. For this database, we have endpoint. We have username. We have password. We have endpoint, username, password, port number available, and a database name also available. Database name also available. Endpoint URL, username, DB password, DB port, DB endpoint URL will be available. DB username, DB password, DB port, and database name, that is nothing but a DB name is also available. Schema name, we can say that it is the schema name. So if you want to connect with this database, we need these database properties. Okay, fine. Go to MySQL Workbench. Do I have any connections with the MySQL? Currently, I don't have any MySQL connections here. Let me create one MySQL connection. Click on plus symbol. Okay. Host name. Host name is nothing but my endpoint URL. Host name is nothing but my endpoint URL. Copy the host name. What is the port number? 3306 is the port number. Very good. Username. What is the username? Admin. Password. Store in vault. Enter the password. Click on OK. Now test connection. Click on test connection. It will check, is your database working? Are we able to connect with the database or not? It is checking now. Test connection. Successfully made the SQL connection. That means, am I able to connect to my database using Workbench? Okay. Connection name, I can give MySQL, AWS RDS MySQL, AWS RDS MySQL, DevOps 7 PM batch. Okay, click on OK. Oh, my database connection is created. Double click on this. Yes, this is my query pane where I can write the queries. Right. Show databases. Execute this query. Show databases. What is the database name available? IHIS is the name of the database. Use IHIS. Use this database. Next one, show tables. Do we have any tables in the database? Currently, there are no tables available in the database. Let's create a table. Create a table. Table name, employee details, employee ID, which is an integer of 10, employee name, which is a varchar, I'm going to write some SQL query to create a table. Employee name, which is varchar2 of 20, employee salary, which is a integer of 5, 2. something like this. Varchar of 20. Varchar of 20, employee salary, integer, a number, 10 comma 2. Some number I'm taking, or 10 I'm taking, assume that. Okay. So this is the query which is used to create the table. Show database. It is going to show all the databases which are available. You need to select which database you want to use. IHIS. Show the tables. What are the tables available? Create a table. Employee details, employee ID, employee name, employee salary. Execute this query. Now see, table creation. Table is created. Once the table is created, insert data. Insert into employee details. Insert into employee details values 101 comma Raju comma 5,000 is the salary. Okay, execute this query. One record, employee details. Now this query, select this, insert, one record is inserted, then insert one more record into the table, right? 101, 102, Raju, Rani, salary 6,000. Select this query, then execute. Second record also inserted. Then select the data from the table. Select the data from the tables. Select star from table name. This is the query to retrieve the data. Now you see 101 Raju record available, 102 Rani record is available. Are we able to execute the queries in the MySQL? Are we able to execute the queries in the MySQL? That means, is my database working as expected? Is my database working as expected? Create database connection in MySQL Workbench using DB properties. Okay. Once database is connected successfully, once we are able to connect with the database, then we can execute below commands in Workbench. Show databases. It will display what all the databases available in the MySQL database. Use IHIS. If you see here, I have created my database name as IHIS. I'm using that. Use the name of the database. So the database we are selecting. In the database, if you want to see what are the tables available, you can execute a command, show tables. What are the tables available in the database? It is going to display. If there is no table available, we can create one table to store the data. I'm creating a table name, employee ID is the column name, employee name is the column name, employee salary is the column name. Insert into employee details table. I'm inserting to records into employee table. Raju record I'm inserting and Rani record I'm inserting. Raju, Rani. Okay. This is the query which is used to create the table. Create a table query is available. Insert query is used to insert the record into the table. Select star from table. It is used to display the table data. It is used to display the table data. That means, are we able to connect with this database, guys? Are we able to connect with the database now? Come on. Is the database setup is working in the AWS cloud? Now tell me, do I need to bother about purchasing the database license? Do I need to bother about purchasing the database license? Do I need to install the database server? Do I need to set up a network? Do I need to set up a power for the database? Do I need to take a separate room? Do I need the backup? Do I need to take care of the backup? Who will take care of all these things? Who will take care of all these things, guys? AWS will take care of all these things. We just need to pay the money. We just need to pay the money. You understood why people are using the cloud now? How much time it took for us to set up a database in the cloud? Can I say hardly 15 minutes? Can I say hardly 15 minutes to set up a database in the cloud? Right. Now, see here. Whatever the database we have configured in the cloud, how the projects will communicate with the database. How the projects will communicate with the database. In the Java project, we need to configure the data source properties. So endpoint of the database, username of the database, password of the database, port number, database name, all these things they are going to configure in the Java application. Java application. Okay. Now let me show you how the people will configure this database properties in the Java project. Guys, these are my Java projects. Let's go to one Java project. This project is communicating with a cloud database. Now, can you see? Can you see here? My database URL is configured. Database username, database password, database driver class. So whatever the database you create as a AWS engineer, you will give this database details to the Java developers. If the project is based on Java, you will give the database properties to the development team. Then a development team will configure those properties in the configuration file. Then my Java project will communicate with the database to store the data. Okay, as a AWS engineer, you just created the database in the AWS cloud. Now you have tested that a database is working or not by using Workbench. Then what will happen? Once your testing is completed, your database is working as expected, then the project, whatever the project that company is developing, that project should communicate with the database. So here, as a DevOps engineer or as a AWS engineer, you will give this database properties to the development team. Development team will configure those database properties in their program. Then that Java program will communicate with the database to store the data, update the data, delete the data, retrieve the data. So this Java application will perform CRUD operations with the database: create, retrieve, update, delete. So every application will perform CRUD operations with the database: create, retrieve, update, delete. You understood how the database will be created in the cloud and how to test the database by using Workbench and how the database connection will happen through the Java application. As the AWS engineer, you no need to know what are these properties. Developers will configure these properties. You just give the database property details to them. They will configure those properties in their application. Then that application will communicate with the database. That's it. That's it. Clear, guys? Are you clear with this? Come on. So, all of you, can you practice this before coming to tomorrow's session? Tomorrow I will tell you how to work with MySQL client in the EC2, how to connect with the database by using EC2 machines, that I will discuss in the tomorrow's session. So today I want all of you to set up this database